work on them line by line as we do it for example, high school students or intermediate students, because the purpose is to teach them vocabulary, is to work on them, is to work with them the grammar of the text. It also helps to develop reading skills. Yeah, there are different strategies such as top-down strategy, bottom-up strategies. Therefore, by intensive reading, students will be more familiar with them. And the aim is to build more knowledge in language and not to depend on practicing the skill of reading. It is used when reading the article requires concentration and attention. When you are reading, for example, a text about politics or a text about economy, you have to read it intentionally and by focus. So what are the advantages of intensive reading? Intensive reading has two key advantages. For low-level readers, intensive reading is possibly the fastest way to build vocabulary. Because as you know, vocabulary is the building block of language. For example, if you go to another country, you don't know grammar, but just you know vocabulary, you can have communication with others. But without vocabulary, you cannot have enough communication. Some foreign language students are able to successful at 10 or more comprehension words per day. Additionally, reading difficult materials forces a learner to develop strategies for dealing with texts that are too hard to read comfortably. Therefore, for advanced students, you can bring some very difficult texts so that they will be familiar with new vocabulary items. Therefore, everything has its own advantages and also disadvantages. What are the disadvantages of intensive reading? Number one, learners have no enough time to practice of reading because of the small amount of text. In intensive reading, you can bring some small amount of text, not a large and big size text. Learners often are unable to read the text at their level in their class because everyone in the class is reading the same material. If you go to homogeneous class, it is okay. But if you go to heterogeneous classes where the students are from different proficiencies, so it is very difficult to bring just one text. And the text mostly are chosen by the teacher. Therefore, the text may not be interest to the reader. Yeah, maybe it is good to speak about sports when the groups are male, when the groups are boys, but they are not, the topic of a sport is not interesting maybe for women or vice versa. Therefore, we have to select a very interesting topic for the participants. Yeah, if there is any question at the end, uh, there is a time for Q&A, question and answer, and then I will answer all the questions. Also, I will give my again my email address and also my telephone. Therefore, I will be in touch with the participants personally later. What are some examples of intensive reading? Their articles or editorials in magazines like the Economic, Political Weekly, blogs post on various topics ranging from science and technology to art and culture, short stories, poetry with layers of meaning, business reports packed with important information, numbers and data, and also analyzing statistical data like diagram, images, and also tables. Of course, reading is a joyous experience that you can share with others. When you read something interesting, you can even have informative discussions with your friends and colleagues. As I have mentioned at the beginning, اقرأ باسم ربك الذي خلق. So reading is an important part of human being. Intensive reading will help you tackle everything from office communication to current news. Everything you have to be able to read. Without reading, you cannot do anything. Therefore, it is good to know how to teach intensive reading easily because maybe you are teachers and you have to know how to teach intensive reading in the classes. First, introduce a topic. For example, the topic is about cooking, the topic is about sport, the topic is about holiday, New Year holiday. And then split the text into different sections. Introduce and drill the target language. Read the section with the student step by step, part by part. Ask comprehension and deduction questions and get the students to give you a summary of the section. It is good to know how much they learned, how much they got by asking some questions. And also get the students to ask you question about the task. You can ask some general question, for example, what was the gist of the paragraph? What did you get? What was it about? Etc. Two skills of intensive reading. Yes, I have mentioned that intensive reading activities include skimming a text for a specific information. For example, if you are going to find a date or a number in a text, you have to skim the text. You don't need to read all the text line by line. You just search. For example, you are going to find the telephone number of someone. Just you go through the text and find the telephone number. Uh, for example, for answering true false statement, filling the gap in the summary, you have to do skimming. Scanning a text needs a match heading to paragraphs, and the scanning jumbles paragraphs and then reading them carefully to put them into the correct order. Okay, what is till now we talked about intensive reading. Now we are going to talk about extensive reading. What is extensive reading? I don't know whether you get the meaning of intensive reading, you know. I would like to ask you, if you know, you can write it for yourselves. What was the meaning of intensive reading? Yeah, I'm sure that all of you got the answer. In contrast, please pay attention to extensive reading. The meaning of extensive reading is reading widely, but not necessarily focusing only on one text. You can read from different sources to develop your reading skills. It's not about finding layers of meaning, grammar, rules, or critical aspects of a text. You just read in everyday life. We read a lot of things. We read, for example, different blogs, different websites, different news, everything is in the form of extensive reading. Extensive reading has been used for beginner level language learners. So at the beginning, it is good for language learners to be exposed to a lot of different kinds of text. It helps to familiarize them with reading material and build the cognitive ability to understand new words, frame sentences, and make sense of the text as a complete unit. You will get a general understanding of a text and improve your language skills. Whether you are a beginner or a proficient reader, extensive reading will help you polish your reading ability. You can try to read as much and as widely as possible. It's better not to restrict yourself to the same type of sources. Some examples of extensive reading are newspapers, blogs, e-magazines. Nowadays, everything are electronically, and because of COVID-19 also, there are lots of electronic devices that you can use. In my opinion, universe is getting very, very little. You will be in touch with each other at the same time. What is the advantage of extensive reading? First, extensive reading gives students chance to read longer pieces of reading. You can compare and contrast intensive and extensive reading. In intensive reading, I told you that it's better to bring a small piece of reading, but extensive reading, students have chance to read longer piece of reading, which they chose, which they can read at their own speed and at their own ability and level. There are different books based on the level of the participants, stories, different English books that the students can use. Intensive reading and extensive reading are complementary, and teachers should use both. We cannot separate them. A balanced reading program uses intensive reading to introduce new language and complement this with extensive reading is okay, which consolidates and raises awareness of this language, leading to reading fluency. Some examples of extensive readings are: extensive reading means to read widely, whereas intensive reading means to read carefully and intently, often with a sharper focus. But of course, one can read both extensively and intensively. Say, I want to say a great poet. In Shiraz, there are lots of poets, Hafiz, Sadi. You can also search about them. الا یا ایها الساقی ادر کأسا بناولها که عشق آسان نمود اول ولی افتاد مشکل ها. Hafiz also wrote his poems in Arabic. I can read poetry extensively, reading as widely as possible. But when I find poems that really catch my interest, I can read those poems more intensively. For example, a line from Shakespeare. I like this line. Shall I compare thee to a summer day? Thou art more comparate, and uh, etc. Therefore, if you like this poem from that poet, intensively you can focus on it. And for example, fair daffodils, I weep to see you haste away so soon. I like this poem, so I intensively read it again and again. I can read those poems more intensively. That's what I actually did when I discovered the great poet as a young boy or as a young girl. So maybe when you were young, you selected something which were catch your eyes. One can read extensively to learn about many things: history, science, philosophy, religious, etc. Or one can read extensively for pleasure. Sometimes I'm very tired. I just check my phone to read extensively. I don't want to check the detail of the messages or go through my email. I just want to listen to something or read something, science fiction, fantasy, or also romance. Yes, there is a question. Is it still appropriate for a lecturer or faculty member who teaches extensive reading to use graded? Yes, yes, I will I will answer you at the end by bringing one of my books to you. Yes, it's also good for graded leaders. You can increase the speed of reading in extensive reading. Yes. Okay, what are the benefits of extensive reading? Uh, okay, thank you. Thanks a lot. Students become better leader, a better reader. It is widely accepted that people become good readers through reading, and that learning how to read should mean a primary focus of attention on the meaning rather than the language of a text. So, the purpose of extensive reading or the benefit of extensive reading is to just get the meaning rather than the language of a text. It is pretty obvious that extensive reading helps students become better readers. Research by Richard Day, amongst many others, shows that we learn to read by reading. Uh, and the more languages students read, the better reader they become.
Sẽ từ dừng với
And
cậu.
in, and in, yeah, an integral part of this is learning new vocabulary. Students learn more vocabulary. Yes, you know that vocabulary is very important. And also, John Reed worked on vocabulary very well. One question, how many vocabulary do you know? You can answer it to yourself. Can you measure vocabulary at all? How can we say that, for example, call on is one vocabulary or two vocabularies? It's a long story. Probably the most cited benefit of extensive reading is that it can extend and sustain a student's vocabulary growth. There are two aspects for vocabulary: size of vocabulary knowledge and also depth of vocabulary knowledge. Vocabulary is my cup of tea. I have also worked on it a lot. Therefore, how many vocabulary you know is another part. How much you know about a vocabulary is another part. We know that vocabulary is not learned by a single exposure. There are active and passive vocabulary knowledge. Sometimes you know a lot of vocabulary, but you cannot use it in everyday conversation. You know a lot. When you read something, you can remember, you know the meaning, but you cannot use it in conversation. Therefore, experts in language and literacy development, such as Harvard University education professor Kathleen Snow, believe that you need to encounter a word or phrase in different contexts between 15 to 20 times to have a high possibility. Therefore, you have to read more and more in order to increase depth of vocabulary knowledge. Uh, Students are highly unlikely to encounter vocabulary sufficient time within the classroom to learn. In classroom, because we don't have enough time, we just expose students to a small, short vocabulary and the small texts. Therefore, they need to read more and more. However, if they read extensively, they are much more likely to get multiple encounters with words and phrases in a variety of contexts. Another advantages of uh, reading extensively is improving writing. You know that there are 4 skills: reading, speaking, listening, and writing. Uh, um, Reading, yes. Students who read extensively also make gain in writing proficiently. This is probably because as students encounter more language more frequently through extensive reading, their language acquisition mechanism is primed to produce it in writing. You know that the order is reading, uh, es- um, es- um, listening, speaking, reading, and writing. The order is something like that. Sorry to interrupt. In addition to gain in reading and writing proficiency, research demonstrates that the students who read extensively also make gain in overall language competence. When you read more and more, your input will increase. Therefore, your output is better, and the overall language proficiency or competency will improve. For example, Krashen reported that therefore adult ESL learners increased competence in both listening and speaking abilities through reading. So extensive reading would seem to benefit all language skills, not just reading and writing. I will focus on this line. Extensive reading will increase and is beneficial for all language skills, not just reading and writing. Students become more motivated to read when you bring some text, more general text, more interesting, easy, difficult. They will be more motivated to read. It is highly motivating for students to discover that they can read in English and they enjoy. It is very enjoyable to read. For this reason, it's essential that the books are interesting to students and at their level. Try not to bring at the beginning a very difficult text for the students. Some general text, some stories. This can help to boost their confidence and self-esteem as language learners. Because if they cannot read, maybe they will get disappointed, they will be afraid, and the students develop their autonomy. What's the purpose of education? What's the aim of education? The aim is to get students become autonomous because there is a saying that um, teach if you teach a man fishing, um, it's better than give a man a fish. So therefore, we should do something for the students to be autonomous. Students can read anywhere while we are in bus, for example, at any time. Reading extensively help them become more autonomous learners. To promote learner autonomy, extensive reading should be a student-managed activity. That is to say that the students should decide what, when, where, and how often they read. And finally, students became more emphatic. Neuroscientists and social science studies have shown that people who read literally fiction extensively are more emphatic. People who read novels about other people who are they read extensively different books. They are different from other people. They are different from themselves and their background are particularly emphatic. Well, what are the key differences between extensive and intensive reading? Now you can, in your mind, compare and contrast the key differences between extensive and intensive reading. The main points of difference between extensive and intensive reading are as follows. In extensive reading, the readers read multiple books, newspaper, magazine, to get a general understanding of the topic of their interest. Conversely, Intensive reading is concerned with classroom learning, wherein the students is compelled to read some text as many times as required to deeply understand the topic. Extensive reading is a supplementary reading which is concerned with decoding of the written material. On the other hand, intensive reading is comprehensive in nature as it involves comprehension of a written text. Extensive reading is reading for fun. Yes, we are getting tired. We read for fun, entertainment, and pleasure. We read jokes. It is not something scientific, as well as to gain a basic understanding of something. However, the primary focus of intensive reading is to understand the literal meaning of the text being read, as the topic is chosen by the teacher in case of intensive reading. It may not be appropriate as per student's interest. For example, it's not my cup of tea to talk about politics or to talk about war. But in the class, we have to bring some general and different topics. On the contrary, in extensive reading, the students are free to choose the material they want to read. Extensive reading is uh, con- concerned with reading different books, as I mentioned, and other study materials based on similar concept and idea. In contrast, intensive reading involves reading the given material again and again to understand in full. In extensive reading, readers are not supposed to use a dictionary. While you are reading a text, you are not looking for a dictionary. General comprehension is needed, as understanding each and every word contained in the material is not vital. As opposed, in intensive reading, readers have to use dictionaries. Nowadays, there are general and online dictionaries. You can use Google Translate, therefore, very easily you can translate the words. While extensive reading is important for improving the reading speed and fluency of the reader, intensive reading develops critical thinking. Critical thinking is very important because the education and in the educational system, critical thinking is not considered a lot. Analytical skills in the reader, along with improving reading skills, vocabulary and grammar knowledge. Intensive and extensive reading is complementary. These two forms of reading are complementary. Intensive and extensive readings helps the students practice and get a deeper knowledge of them. The former can be compared with doing driving lessons at the schools, the latter with actually driving on the road. Both are necessary. Extensive reading is usually done with a graded reader. Vocabulary acquisition from extensive reading. Yes, I repeated several times that by extensive reading, students can learn vocabulary based on its definition. Extensive reading exposes learners to large quantities of material within their linguistic competence, which is at the same time pleasurable. There is there are several reasons why it is so attractive to develop language knowledge through extensive reading. To maintain a few, it is considered a pedagogically efficient approach as two activities, vocabulary acquisition and reading, occur at the same time. This approach facilitates learners' autonomy, can be very pleasant and motivating. We discussed about these and could theoretically result in substantial vocabulary learning, which seems difficult to achieve with explicit teaching during a relatively short period of time that L2 learners spend in their classroom. L2 second language learners. In fact, Nation argues that the use of reading and other input sources, Nation is a person who worked on vocabulary and reading a lot. Maybe the only practical options for out of class language development for some learners, especially in EFL, English as a foreign language context. Considering the above, it seems that extensive reading should be an indispensable dimension of vocabulary teaching. In the field of extensive reading, two studies by Nation investigated the potential contribution of graded readers of vocabulary learning by examining word frequency. Yes, there is a list because about teaching and learning vocabulary, we have to ask, first of all, this question: which vocabularies should the students first learn? What are the bases? And Nation explained that based on frequency, it is better to teach the vocabulary because some words are never used in our everyday communication, while some words are very important for everyday communication. The next topic, how to evaluate and monitor extensive reading. Evaluation is also important because we teach, we work in order to see how much students learn. Teachers often feel they should check a student's understanding of their reading differently through tests and quizzes. We always have tests or quizzes at the end of the class or at the end of the semester. In extensive reading, as long as the students are reading a book at their level, there is then no need to test their comprehension. Therefore, in extensive reading, it is very easy because if you ask some questions, what did you get? What was the gist of the story? Who were the characters of the story? If you check the students, and then you will know if they got the point, if they read the book or no. Then this is because part of the decision about which book is to read involved making sure that they could understand most of the book. Therefore, before introducing the book and selecting the book, you have to check the participants' level. Before reading it, extensive reading is not about testing. Extensive reading is just for fun, maybe. So there is no need to test. It is about helping students to build their reading speed and fluency and become more confident in English, reading text in English. These things are not always testable directly. For example, if I tell a joke and you don't laugh, I will get that you didn't understand the joke. Maybe your comprehension is not good enough to understand my joke. There is no test or quizzes, but I will understand that you didn't get the point. So, book reports. So, that's why the following activities can be used to evaluate extensive reading activity without using or naming the word quizzer or a test. Book report, summarize, presentations. You just introduce a book to participants and ask them to summarize. There's no quiz, there's no test. The students just relax, but you can evaluate them. They could also comment on the character of the book, plot, their reaction, summary. Giving grades, you can grade the students by number of pages or words they have read. There is a speed text. How many pages did you cover? how many reading levels they go up, quality of their reading or oral books, summaries, follow-up activities, and so on. Measuring reading speed. At the beginning of the course, ask them to read a book at their level for 3 minutes. Then count the number of words they read and divide that by 3 to get the number of words per minute. Repeat this in the middle and at the end to check their speed of reading, because maybe sometimes uh, comprehension happens but in lower speed, and you don't have enough time to spend a lot of time on reading just one short paragraph. Informal monitoring. Another type is a silent reading time. Each week, give the teacher a chance or a student a chance to watch students as they read silently. Do they look like they understand? One of the advantages of face-to-face classes was that when I was in the class, I looked at the students' faces and I could get that they understood the point or no. While in online classes, I cannot meet them. So I'm not sure whether they understood the point or no. As they sitting in a way to enjoy the book or trying to hide that. Here nowadays, we cannot check the students that whether they are listening to us, they are watching TV while their laptops are open, they are reading a book, what they are eating, they are drinking, what they are doing, we cannot check them. Uh, Informal oral comprehension. Informally, we can check them, or after reading a book, we can discuss with them oral comprehension without writing anything. Can they retell the story with little trouble? Uh, do they get all the information? Do they get all the detail? Can they react to the story? Find key lines or ask them, finish, for example, the story. Ask what is it about? Ask how it ended, and ask, do you like to be mm, uh, just like the hero or heroine of the story? Some general questions. In a nutshell, extensive reading is mainly used when an overall or superficial knowledge is required on a subject, as no focus is made on a detail of the study. On the other hand, intensive reading is used where due attention is required to learn a specific detail about the topic or subject under study. But this was about intensive and extensive reading. I hope you are not getting tired. If you are getting tired, so sorry. Now, my gift to you is here, of course, let me introduce that. This is a book I have written by myself, special English for the students of midwifery. Well, this book written by me is based on extensive reading. The book is based on extensive reading. This is my gift to you, my book. I have also another gift to you. There are two gifts for you. The first one is the book. The book is based on extensive reading approach. Some principles of extensive reading approach is as follows. The students of midwifery, they have to read as much as possible, perhaps in and definitely out of the classroom. Therefore, the book is based on extensive reading. I will show the cover again for you. I will send the book to Mr. David later. And then if you like, you can have the book to have a glance at it and to check the detail. A variety of material on a wide range of topic is available. In this book, for example, I introduced general topics about midwifery, who is a midwife, what is laboring, etc. Two, encourage students to reading for different reasons and different ways. The purpose of reading are usually related to information and general understanding. The purpose are determined by the nature of the material and the interest of the students. Reading is its own reward. When you read, you get something. The reward is that you will be interested to read more and more. There are few or no follow-up exercises after reading. So they are relaxed. The students are of midwifery are relaxed in the class because there is no exercise after reading. Reading materials are well within the linguistic competence of the students. I tried to choose text from the easy to the difficult one. And reading is individual and silent. A student read by themselves individually, silently in the class, and at their own pace, step by step, little by little, and outside class done when and where students chooses. Reading speed in that book, for example, is usually faster than usually faster rather than slower, as the students read books and other materials they find easily understandable. As a result, teacher can act in this way. Teachers orient students to the goals of the program. Therefore, teachers should explain that the goal is to be familiar with general idea, general text about midwifery, or different methodology guide the students in getting the most out of the program. It can be said that the teacher is a role model. You know that as a teacher, we have different roles. We have to consult the students. We have to be a role model. We have to be friend with our students and an active member of the classroom or community. We have to demonstrate what it means to be a reader, and the reward of being is a reader. There's also a very important specialized vocabulary at the end of that book. Academic word list, you know that vocabulary, learning vocabulary, teaching vocabulary is different. Those who are students of university, they don't need to use and to know general vocabulary. They need to learn academic word list in order to read academic book. And it was compiled by Coase Head, consists of 570 word families that are not in the most frequent 2000 words of English, but occur reasonably frequently. These words that among academic word lists are very important for the students of university. And then after uh, introducing and giving a text, for example, about midwifery, there are some general exercises like this one, closed tests or admission process. For example, each woman should be admitted by the midwife, and then the students should fill in the blank. Then I could get whether they got the point, they got the word, they learned or no, finally, because the goal of teaching is learning in any way. So this is just one example of the exercise. And also another example, just like this one. Now read the text. There is also a text, another text. You know, there are lots of paragraphs, lots of vocabularies, monitoring of the fetal heart in low risk. They have to read and read and read. At the end, they will learn. Now, okay. Yes, I hope that you are not getting tired. Uh, do we have still time or shall I skip? Oh, there is a test here, extensive reading activity. I don't know whether it is possible for you to do it online right now or no. There is a test, you have to read it, and at the end, there are some general questions. If you see the board, you can follow and you can read this uh, test right now. Are you ready? Is it possible for you to do the test, to read it or no? It is a kind of activity for you. Yeah. As teachers, this is just our habit to evaluate participants. So if you are ready, let me. Yeah, you were not satisfied, therefore I was disconnected. Therefore, I will skip the test and leave it to you for later when you are ready. At the end of the class or later, you can have this PowerPoint and then you can do this activity. You can read this. It's very also, it's easy. You can read, 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 and then, yes, you have to answer the following questions after reading the text to check and evaluate yourself. Match the questions, match the vocabulary, and also true or false. Okay, I will skip this part. Extensive writing. Now we have talked about intensive and extensive reading. Now, if you are not getting tired, I will continue to extensive writing. Writing comprehension. What is writing? Again, we have to start with the definition first. Writing is the medium of human communication. If we read, we don't answer, what's the use? So we have to be able also to write. That involves the representation of a language through a system of physically inscribed, mechanically transferred, or digitally represented symbols. Writing systems are not themselves human languages. Uh, they are means of rendering a language into a form that can be reconstructed by other humans separated by time or space. While not all languages use a writing system, there are some languages that there is no writing system at all. Those with systems of inscription of writing can complement and extend capacities of spoken language by enabling the creation of durable forms of speech that can be transmitted across spaces and stored over time, for example, in the libraries. Um, yeah. Again, intensive writing and extensive writing, I have to compare and contrast. In intensive writing, uh, requirements may be fulfilled by completing one intensive writing course at or above 200 level after completing the English composition requirement. Normally, intensive writing sections are taught by faculty in small sections and include written assignments in which students are asked to make, illustrate, and develop argument. Graded revision of assignment is required. We give students a topic and they write. It is intensive reading, and then we check their assignments, their grammar, to make certain that the course sections they have chosen fulfill their requirement. Extensive writing is when learners do a large quantity of informal writing, brainstorming. You just keep a pen or pencil on hand and write and write. There's something in my mind. I write immediately of various style, various topic. Intensive writing in which learners have to be careful of their grammar and of making mistakes is different. I write at the beginning and there are lots of grammatical mistakes, there are lots of punctuational mistakes, then I will check it. Reflective and extensive writing. Reflective writing includes dialogue. Extensive writing does not include dialogue. Reflexive writing is not meant to be shared. There's something in my mind, I write. But nowadays, there are lots of blogs, lots of websites that I can share my thought, my ideas within them. Therefore, how do I prepare for my writing skill test? Get feedback on your writing. You write something, give the writing to your friends or teacher, check them, and prepare for a better writing. Write something every day. Follow the exam instruction closely. Use more transitional devices such as first, second, after, before. Therefore, another gift for you, my second gift for you is easy reading. Easy reading based on Concordal Cloud. There's also, the book is also written by me. It's also my gift to you. I will give the file of the book to Mr. Devik, and if you like, you can ask him to give the second book also to you. I don't know whether you are familiar with Concordal Cloud or no. This is a new mechanism of teaching reading. Okay, let me show you what Concordal Cloud is. This is a kind of Concordal Cloud. Before introducing a text to the students, I will show this Concordal Cloud, which I found them in Concordal Cloud. You can give a text to Concordal Cloud, and then the output is something like this one. You know, there are some words bigger than the others. Birthday, want, she. Therefore, it comes to your mind that the text is about birthday. Yes. Or look at this one, this concordal cloud. Shoes, buy, mall, tomorrow. Therefore, it's clear from this concordal cloud that the text is about buying a shoe from a mall tomorrow. Who wants to buy? Lisa. And then when I introduce and I give the passage to the students, it's very easy for them to comprehend the passage. And then after reading, there are some vocabulary equivalents and then some examples. For example, just like this one. Therefore, the book is, of course, the texts are very easy reading based on Concordal Cloud. You can do the same with all the text and make the reader or the listener familiar with the text before presenting the text. Therefore, it was my second gift to you. Hope that you like and enjoy it. And at the end, the references, I gathered the information from these references. I mentioned the references so that not to make plagiarism. And the answer key, if you had enough time later, you can do the exercise, and the answer keys are at the end. You can check whether you did it correctly or no. Finally, again, my name, I told you that I'm Dr. Adazeh Nemati from Iran, Shiraz. And let me remind you again that Azadeh means freedom. I like my name a lot, and also hope that you like your names. And by explaining the meaning of my name, you will not forget me anymore. This is my telephone number. If you had any question, if you wanted something from Iran, any special knowledge, information, I'm at your disposal. Thank you very much. Thanks a lot, all the participants, for your patience. And again, I would like to thank my respected colleague, dear Mr. Devik, and also dear Sayedeh for helping me a lot. Thank you very much, and that was all. I prefer to finish it sooner so that we can have Q&A, question and answer. We will discuss with each other. Let me check the yeah, give the reaction. Yes. Yes, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thanks a lot, respected ladies and gentlemen, for participating and accepting our invitation.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Adazeh Nemati, for giving sounds on informative presentation. Thank you very much, Dr. Adazeh Nemati, for giving sounds on information presentation for all of you. Okay, her and you, Ayon, what to ask question?
Yeah, the questions.
Okay.
Questions that given by our participants.
Okay, question from
There is a question about introducing resources or websites. There are lots of websites. For example, Rang Chang, that I will type later, and Rang Chang. There are based on different levels. And also storynori.com.
Okay. A question from Mom Sayyidatul Fadilah. Is it still a profit for a lecturer, faculty member who teach extensive reading to use great readers to empower university students reading proficiency.
Okay, another question. When we implement intensive and extensive reading on the book that we read, when we implement, uh, from the beginning, you can implement extensive and extensive reading. It is based on the object or the goal of the class, whether the goal is extensive or an intensive reading. Motivation. Giving motivation is really difficult because, as you said, there are some people who are crazy about reading, but some people are getting tired. It depends on the style of the students. You can motivate them by giving, for example, a score or giving them a book. Yeah. Yeah, I'm reading the questions. When we are in the low grade of learning English and we try to read the highest English books, you mean the more difficult. It's not appropriate. If possible, try to match the proficiency and the book with the students. There is a hypothesis about teaching and learning English, which is I+1. Consider the proficiency and introduce a book which is a little bit higher than the proficiency of the students. I+1, a little bit difficult. Yeah, some people don't like to read. You are right. We have, as teachers, we have the same problem. Is there a way to deal with people who don't like reading? You know, this is the art of teaching. As teacher, you have to find a way to make interest participants in reading, writing. Teaching is really a difficult job. It's a difficult job. Yeah, since extensive reading and writing has the credit, to credit for my students. So what's your suggestion for me about the way how to evaluate the students? Yes, extensive reading. Yeah, I mentioned about the evaluation. There is no quizzes. You can just ask them to bring the summaries, to bring the notes, to complete the story, to change the end of the story, something like that. And in intensive reading, you can ask some specific questions. Yeah, dear Muhammad, I would like to know what the disadvantages or weakness of extensive reading are. Yes, we have mentioned. Dear, then if extensive reading has a weakness, is it impossible to still use it? Yeah, everything has its own advantages and disadvantages. You have to consider the goal of the class. What's the goal of your class or your student? How about some students that have an auditory type of learning? Yeah. Is there any tips of solution for them? Yes, a good question. For those who are handicapped, they cannot hear. maybe by different types of or a style of reading, like braille, or uh, which braille which is good for blind people, and also there by means of symbols. There are symbolic language. Those who cannot hear can communicate. How to identify points that are important to understand. Yeah. Generally speaking, in intensive reading, by skimming and scanning, you can ask some general questions, or you can ask some specific questions about the text. The main questions are: what is the gist of the story? What is the gist of the paragraph? Who are the characters? What are the conclusion? What happened? Some general questions. How is the most effective way to read with the scanning method, especially books that are very thick? Yeah. And take a long time to finish. You have to separate them chapter by chapter, and every day read every day, and get some notes. It's good to have some notes about the book. But these nowadays, people are not interested in novels. They just like to read short stories. I don't know, everything has changed. Is there any solution in intensive reading activities for people who have difficulty focusing in the long term? Yeah. You know that there are different focusing span for the participants. Mm, you have to consider whole class. Whole class means whole person. Characteristics, personality, gender, background knowledge, everything should be considered. There is no one prescription for all the students for just one class. We have to consider different people, different personalities, style of learning. Laziness in reading. You mean those who are slow in reading and writing, step by step. This is just a kind of practice. If they practice, they can learn better, they can do better. Intensive reading, how to teach in a fun way, by bringing, yes, poems, by clapping hands for example, beginners, by giving new identities to the participants. For example, you are Jack, you are Joan, you are Jenny, you are Mary. So what do you do in this text, in this context? Yeah, making interest again. There is no solution that I have to tell you that what is the solution for motivating the participants or making them interest. As a teacher, you have to find the way. I see that most of you are ladies. So ladies have lots of capacities, lots of abilities. By your kindness, by your face, by your gestures, you can attract the students. And of course, it's very clear that you are all very kind teachers, mothers, everything. It's really clear. From some societies, the vibe is really, really good and positive. Yes, if you have any question now, I can answer all your questions. I'm at your disposal.
Okay, thank you very much, Azadeh,
for the nice information and for your answers of all of the question on the chat box. Is
You're
there
most
anyone here who wants to ask directly about the material, maybe? Or anyone online, you want to ask some question? No, okay. So may I ask a question, Azadeh? Sorry.
Yeah, please.
Okay, thank you.
So I'm glad. Maybe I explained a lot and the participants got a lot. So there's no question.
Okay,
I'm
yeah,
very
they have
happy
already
about that.
written the
Yes.
question on the chat
Yes.
box.
But later, if they have any question
yeah.
later, they can access, they can have my WhatsApp and they have access to me. Yes.
Wow, yes, thank you. It's very nice of you. Thank you, Azadeh.
Yeah.
Okay, but I
Yeah.
have one question here, Azadeh. I also teach one of the extensive reading and writing class here, but I'm still wondering what kind of activity in the classroom. So if we have like 16 meetings, so what kind of activity that we can give to the students to teach both extensive reading and extensive writing. Do you have any idea about it?
Is there any course book, a book, or no? You are free to choose any
Yeah,
text.
now, so yeah, in the beginning, I will ask them to choose one or two of their favorite reading types, yeah. But is it okay for them because they will of course choose different books, yeah. So how can we maintain their progress, yeah, during
It is,
their reading?
yeah, it is good. You did a good job because at the beginning they had freedom to select their own book and their own level based on their own level and interest. But at the end of the course, at the end of the semester, all the participants should reach the same level. Therefore, later you can select one book after 2 or 3 sessions. And then they have to, those who are weaker, they have to practice more. Those who are stronger reach at the same level.
Okay.
You select a book, for example, a reading book, a text, or a topic for writing. Then you select based on your participants, based on evaluating them, how much they improved.
Okay. And for example, when I ask the students, some of them will answer. When I ask them, what is your favorite kind of text do you want to choose for fun reading, for extensive reading? Some of them mentions like review of something like for example, review of movie or review of song or novel, which is it's not quite long. Is it included into extensive reading? Because extensive reading should be like longer text than intensive reading. What about it?
Yeah, you are right. Then you can select some the same topic, but some longer text. You are right. If it is short, it's not considered as extensive reading. You can bring 2 more, 3, 4, some more texts for them, even in a small passages. But the
Okay.
number should increase.
Okay, so the number should be increased, not only
Yeah,
one text. Okay, I see.
text. Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
exactly. It is important for them just to be exposed to different texts. Read and read. It doesn't matter how many, the length, it doesn't matter.
Ada lagi gimana on the chat tuh?
Oh,
Okay, can I give you
wait, yeah.
a question?
Yes, yes, please.
Yeah. uh, uh, yes, it is the same as who Arnie said that we have the specific course for the students to improve their reading proficiency and also the writing proficiency of theirs. Yeah, that is the subject of extensive reading and writing. Okay, sometimes when we discuss with the college, yeah, which one is better for us to start? Yeah, whether it is from the topic or the kind of the source we offer to students. What I mean is that we provide the topic for the students, or we determine the source that they have to read. Yeah, for example, the what's that? What they have to read is newspaper or what's the magazine, or we start from the theme or the topic itself. For example, in a meeting, we focus on the specific theme. Yeah, would you like to give the suggestion for me, for us? Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, dear, I didn't get the question. What did you mean? Would you please explain once more? What was your question? Is it possible
Yeah.
to, yeah, because
Yes.
I didn't get the question.
Yes. I repeat my question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I heard your voice, but I didn't get what you wanted to know.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Honestly, for this subject, extensive reading and writing is at the third meeting. Yeah, we discussed with our college. Yeah, do we need to start from the theme or topic? Yeah, or we have to start from the source or the reference the students have to read, such as magazine. What I mean is that at this meeting, the students have to choose. They have to choose freely the magazine that they want to read. Yeah, or we start from the theme or the topic that they choose, but they can select the source that they want to. Yeah, please give us the suggestion for that.
Yeah, you
Is
meant
it better?
that.
Is it better?
Yeah, you meant that. Is it good that as teachers you select the text or the participants?
Mm.
Yes, you wanted to select a text instead of the students.
They have the freedom. They have the freedom to choose. Yeah, but we are so confused whether we start from the topic. Yeah, we
Yes.
only provide the topic, then they select the source that they want to read it, or
What is the syllabus of the course? I mean, what is the object? What goals should be met at the end? You have to consider the goals. And if all the teachers select one book, select one topic, it is better to be with each other. Did you get it? I mean, it is good to select one course book, and then all the teachers teach just that one course book. For extra material, for supplementary materials, also participants or the students select their own books, their own topics, and as complementary, they work together. Hope my answer was clear.
Okay. Sorry, Miss, for the first time I'm gonna ask about the question is about we stay in the vortex of globalizations where people are influenced by the group by the social media, and we stay in school where people have interest in different interests in reading. So how to resolve the problems and be impactful toward the students who has nothing in metacognitions and also who doesn't have interest in reading. Thank you.
I got the point. Yes. So you have to have different kinds of motivation, internal and external. For example, the easiest way is to consider some scores for the participants. It is a kind of external motivation. Or give them some gift, for example, a book, or took them to, for example, cinema, park, etc. You have to motivate them to read and start from easier text so that it would be comprehensible for them. They will be more interesting to the text. They get what is going on, and then go to the next or more difficult text. Start from easy text, go to more difficult text, or consider some points for them as scores, or give them, for example, chocolate, candy, invite them to cinema in order to increase their motivation to
Okay, I
read,
got it.
to have cooperation with you.
Okay, thank you for the answer.
You're most welcome. Hope it would be clear.
Okay, thank you so much for this opportunity, golden opportunity. Well, I want to ask questions about. I want to ask about extensive and intensive reading, especially reading. So there are many skills in English related to reading comprehension. So I see I got a problem to understand easily about reading comprehension due to lack of vocabulary, some vocabulary. So can you please give us some solution to solve the problem to boost some vocabularies? Thank you.
Vocabulary. Yes, how to teach vocabulary. Yes, in extensive reading, when one vocabulary is repeated several times, unconsciously they will learn. But in extensive reading, for example, look at here in my book. In extensive reading, they will learn when the word is repeated in several words, in several sentences, in several paragraphs. But in intensive reading, look at here, for example, one way is to bold the word. The words which are supposed to be learned can be underlined or bold, and then there are some general equivalent. Pretty, for example, means beautiful. Mall, shopping center, store, shop. The words are bold here in the text, and then the equivalents are there: a store, shop, price, the amount of money. Some based on some opposite words. New is the opposite of old. In intensive reading, you have to purposely teach vocabulary, and vocabularies are graded. But in extensive reading, if the word is repeated several times in several sentences, they will learn unconsciously.
Okay, thank you so much.
Is
Actually,
it clear?
yes, it's totally clear. So thank you so much. Actually, I have one question. Can I?
Yes, yes, of course.
Okay, thank you. So it's about laziness. So even me, I just got bored when I read long term in reading. So I get confused and don't get it understand easily. So can you just please give me the solution about that? As you can see,
Yeah.
there are a lot of people will get bored if they just see a long term in reading, and they just get don't understand easily.
They don't understand easily. By laziness, you mean a slowness, being slowly, or you mean not being clever? Which one? A slow or not clever, not intelligent?
I think
Laziness.
yes. I think laziness goes through the they have a potential to read, but they just
They are not. They are not good students.
I'm sorry.
They are not good students,
They are a student.
but not good one.
Yes.
They are naughty. They don't like to learn. The only solution, there is no capsule, or there is no medicine, or there is no injection. The only solution is to read and write, read and write, read and write. They have to read it in any way. For example, a story before going to bed each night, listening to stories. Stories are the most important ones because they are really beneficial, they are interesting. So before going to bed, you can read a story. Short stories, of course, 1 page, 2 pages, not the long one, short stories. And then it will be just like a habit for you. You have to make a plan for yourself that today I have to start from 1 line, read 1 line, write 1 line, the next one 2 lines, the second day 2 paragraphs, and increase it step by step. You have to practice.
Okay, thank you so much for the answer.
You're most welcome. Hope it would be clear.
Okay, it's totally clear. Thank you so much.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. Thank you.
Thanks to the
Adazeh,
technology.
I have
Yeah.
questions.
Yes.
I have also questions. Adazeh. Yeah, it's very
Yes,
interesting.
it's my
Talking about.
it's my pleasure. Yes.
Okay, let's see. Talking about extensive reading and writing. Yeah, we have also extensive listening and speaking, and I think listening and reading are similar. In listening skills, we have scanning and skimming skills as well.
Yes.
Now, what about the listening materials for extensive listening? Are they the same with extensive reading, meaning that we can read long pieces of text, and then in extensive listening, we listen longer listening text. What do you think about extensive listening then?
Yes,
Thank you, Adazeh.
exactly. Yeah, you are most welcome. Exactly, this is the same. I experienced the same situation. I am learning French also these days. And most of the time, I listen to BBC News in French. This is just the voice is on air. I just listen to it unintentionally all the time. But when intentionally I want to go to grammar, to vocabulary, to check the spelling, to see what is go on, I just focus on short passages and listen to them and again repeat it. For example, play it again to learn it better. But most of the time, I listen to BBC News in French in order to get extensive listening. Yes, this is exactly the case for all skills: reading, speaking, listening, and writing. They are all the case.
Uh, does it mean that in in intensive reading that we can only give short passages? What about if we give them long passages, some things like short stories, novels? Is it included? Do you mean that short stories and novels are extensive readings materials, or can we make it into intensive reading materials in the classroom? So we distribute novels to students, and then they read with speed reading, and then we give them exercises. Is it possible, Azadeh?
Yeah, you can. Yeah, you the way you are teaching the source or the text is different. The text is the same. One text can be used as intensive reading or listening and extensive reading and listening. If you just focus on the vocabulary, if you just read it slowly, if you just read it again and again, it is intensively. But the same text, if you read it very slowly, if you read it very fast and just get the comprehension, the same text, it is extensively. The text can be used as intensive and extensive. The same text, I mean. You don't need to change it. The way you work on it is different.
Okay, thank you. I got it.
Yeah. Yes. For example, the same story, the same short story. For the first time, the students read it extensively. How? They read it very fast. They don't go through the details. They just see what's going on, who is the hero, what is the plot, what happened. But for the second time, for the third time, for the fourth time, you will read it, you will memorize the sentences, you will just find the words one by one, you will finish it. The text is the text, the same text, but the way you work with it, the way you look at it, the strategy and the method is different.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're most welcome. Yes. more questions, more discussions. We teach more in having discussions. Just giving a lecture and you listen to the lecture is not good enough.
Okay, thank you so much. Is there
You're
any
most welcome.
questions? Okay, I think
Maybe at this moment everything clear, but if any question comes to your mind later, you can be in touch with me.
okay. I think it's enough. There is no questions left. So I'm as a master of ceremony for today's meeting. Will say thank you very much for such an insightful presentation for today's meeting. And I'd like to say sorry from the deepest of my heart for of my mistakes during this presentation. And thank you very much. And I hope we will be meeting. We will meet someday. Hoping
Hopefully.
coronavirus disease will go.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully.
It's also my pleasure to be among the community, to be presented. Thank you, dear Devik. You helped me a lot. And also, dear Sayede, thank you very much. Also, all the members, participants, thank you very much. Thanks a lot. And goodbye. Hope to see you here.
Okay, excuse me. Before we are leaving for this meeting, I'll take a picture first to make a memorize.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, I'll count by 3, 2, 1. Cheese. Bye.
Khuda Hafiz. Bye.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Okay, thank you very much for all the participation.
Okay, thank you, Azadeh, and it's
You're
time is
most welcome.
now. Enjoy your day there. Now it's still morning or afternoon?
It's 11
Good morning.
in the morning. Yeah.
Okay, see you here. See you, Azadeh. See you again.
Thanks a
Goodbye.
lot. Thank you. Take care. Bye. Bye.
Assalamualaikum.